seated.
L'Shana Tova. Dr. Paul E. Ruskin once presented the following case to his team of nurses. The patient neither speaks nor comprehends the spoken word. Sometimes she babbles incoherently for hours on end. She is disoriented about person, place, and time. She does, however, respond to her own name. I have worked with her for the past 6 months, but she still shows complete disregard for her physical appearance and makes no effort to assist in her own care. She must be fed, bathed, and clothed by others. Because she has no teeth, her food must be pureed. Her shirt is usually soiled from almost incessant drooling. She doesn't walk. Her sleep pattern is erratic. Often she wakes up in the middle of the night and her screaming awakens others. Most of the time she's friendly and happy, but several times a day she gets agitated without apparent cause. And then she wails until someone comforts her. Dr. Ruskin asked how the nurses would feel about taking care of such a patient. They use words such as frustrated, hopeless, depressed, and annoyed. And when he said that he enjoyed it and thought they would too, the class looked at him in disbelief. Then he passed around a picture of the patient, his 6-month-old daughter. Why might it feel so much more difficult to care for a 90-year-old than a 6-month-old with similar needs? The underlying issue is not the care we would provide, but rather the way we view the person who needs our care. Dr. Ruskin and his students agreed that this infant represented new life, hope, and infinite potential. The hypothetical age patient was at the end of her life with little chance to grow. In other words, our society values an individual's potential for future contributions over their inherent worth. While we are very much in agreement that it takes a village to raise a child, so too must we realize that it takes an entire community to care for elders and their caregivers. Anti-age bias, or ageism, as Robert and Butler coined the term in 1968, describes the systemic discrimination against elderly people. Butler compared it to racism and sexism during the civil rights movement. And fast forward 55 years, I am sorry to report this morning that I don't think much has changed. I have witnessed firsthand how damaging ageism can be towards our aging population. At my friend's recent ordination ceremony, his grandmother came from across the country to celebrate this momentous accomplishment. She mostly traveled by wheelchair as she was unable to walk, and her daughter dropped her off at the front before looking for parking, where she was promptly wheeled into an air conditioning by an attendant to escape the heat. Unfortunately, the attendant then faced her towards a wall and left her sitting by herself, as though she were an out-of-place chair rushed into a closet. Although the attendant cared for her physical needs by moving her out of the summer heat, in this instance, her unique human dignity was overlooked, and because of her advanced age, he deemed that she was unable to converse. Who knows how long she would have been placed in timeout had another person not intervened by turning her around and striking up conversation. While ageism against older adults is often the focus of research on both the individual and structural levels, a lesser studied component of ageism is ageism against younger adults. Let me tell you another story, this one a tiny bit more personal. My first job out of college was working as a clergy assistant. I began in July, and my first High Holy Days rolled around in September. I was pretty jazzed about it. I look forward to meeting many new faces, greeting individuals as they entered the building, and experiencing the many different types of prayer that the synagogue had to offer. There was one interaction in particular that I have yet been able to part with. A congregant came up to me, very matter-of-factly, intending not an iota of humor, and said, Hannah, did I read correctly that you became a bat mitzvah last month? Mazel tov, I heard wonderful things about the service. After confirming that she was indeed talking to me, I felt instantly mortified. When I corrected her and pointed to my name tag with both my first name and my position at the synagogue, her response, "You look so young. I didn't think you could possibly be working here." While I still don't think she intended harm, I interpreted her remarks as there is no way you were qualified to work here with such little life experience. While unfortunate, it is clear that we use age bias as a way for forming our initial opinions of people. Does it have to be that way? What if there were no physical demarcations of age? And what if everyone was born appearing as a fully fledged adult and experienced no age-related body changes their entire life? A midrash indeed addresses this very question on its commentary on Genesis 24:1. The verse reads, "Abraham was now old, advanced in years, and God had blessed Abraham in all things." The rabbis question the apparent redundancy. Why write that Abraham is both old and also that he is advanced in years? It must be to teach us that until Abraham, there was no old age. One who wished to speak to Abraham might mistakenly find themselves speaking with his son Isaac, for their genetics caused them to look alike. They had different needs and personalities, yet people treated Abraham in his 90s the same as Isaac in his teens. In other words, the rabbis teach us that God gave us the gift of aging so that we can form patterns about and identify people's age-based needs and lived experiences. Our ability to determine age, I think, is therefore a blessing. Building on this idea, Rabbi Pinchas Kahati, in his commentary on Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors, brings to our attention that the Hebrew word zaken, which generally just means old in Torah and other rabbinic texts, may additionally carry another meaning. He says that zaken is an acronym for Zeh Shekaneh Hachma, or literally, this is a person who acquired wisdom. Rabbi Kahati's interpretation of a zaken refers to a wise person who knows how to season wisdom with reason and good sense. In other words, zaken does not only have to refer to chronological age, but is also a marker that identifies one as having attained the qualities of emotional and spiritual maturity. Not only does age allow us to identify people's needs, it grants us a higher ability to honor those who came before us, to celebrate and not denigrate the shoulders on which we stand today. Yet, we in today's society have taken the old world definition of a zaken, old person, and turned it into a way of discriminating against an entire generation. How might we go back to the traditional Jewish approach? How might we use age and appearance as a means to better understand or honor people, as opposed to it being their only defining characteristic? As it turns out, not everyone today has such a negative association with aging. Studies have shown that when it comes to getting older, attitude matters, so much so that our own beliefs on aging not only affect our own mindset, but can also affect our own lifespan. Yale professor and author Dr. Becca Levy found in a 2002 study that individuals living in the US with a positive self-perception on aging lived on average 7.5 years longer than those with a more negative view. Not only was lifespan affected for those with a positive self-perception, but individuals were less likely to develop cardiovascular events such as heart attack, stroke, and even Alzheimer's disease. Individuals with positive beliefs of aging are more likely to have better self-efficacy, which therefore leads to better health outcomes. Levy's research was inspired by a trip to Japan, a culture in which those who are in advanced years are celebrated. The older generation is revered by all. Japanese culture is known for the commonality of multi-generational households, allowing those of all ages to bond over their different lived experiences and shared human dignity. It is no coincidence that Japan currently holds the world record for the country with the longest lifespan in the world. The Japanese people must be reading a ton of Midrash and Kahati. A Jewish community in Massachusetts uses a similar approach to honoring age by incorporating intergenerational learning and community building. Located next to each other on Great Meadow Road in Dedham, Massachusetts, lies both a Jewish day school, the Rosh School, and Newbridge on the Charles, a senior living center that offers a complete range of care, from independent to various assisted living environments. Both institutions have mutually agreed to take advantage of their close proximity, and over the course of a student's K-8 education, every student at the Rashi School will experience multiple touch points with their Newbridge neighbors, with many forming lasting relationships. Students learn about the lived experiences of Newbridge residents, their stories, their families, their day-to-day lives, and the relationship is reciprocal, with Newbridge residents frequenting the Rashi building to read to kindergartners, assist older students in math, or share a personal story at an all-school meeting. The relationship has become a selling point at both the day school and the retirement community. Beth Or is an intergenerational community with the potential to do all of the above, whether formally or informally. In my short tenure at Beth Or, I have been blown away by all of the different offerings at our synagogue. For most, it is not only a sacred prayer space, but a place where community and interpersonal relationships are of the utmost importance, where 9-month-olds and 90-year-olds can sit side by side in prayer. From pickleball to bereavement groups to mahjong to walking to hiking, the list goes on and on. Yet, with all of these amazing opportunities, sometimes we are inadvertently inclined to silo ourselves by age. Are you a Yobo student that has a knack for crocheting or knitting? Or a recent B'nai Mitzvah that has picked up mahjong or canasta? Or maybe you are recently retired, and are willing and able to mentor members of our Get Connected, Beth Or's business and career network. The more intergenerational interactions we build, the stronger our community will become. I want to repeat that. The more intergenerational interactions we build, the stronger our community will come. Let us recall when Moses asked Pharaoh to let his people go. Pharaoh asked him in return, just who exactly will be going? Moses' response, with our elders and our youth, we will go. In other words, Moses makes clear that the very essence of our community is the inclusion of members across the lifespan. We must respect the learning capacities of our children and the teaching capacities of our elders, as well as the reverse. As we enter 5784, I pray that all of us may be privileged to live in the shadow of God all the days of our lives and be blessed with the proper perspective on life, its stages, and its challenges. May we remember that all of us, infants, toddlers, children, teenagers, young adults, middle-aged adults, elders, we're all created in God's image. L'shana tova umetuka.
We are gifts